We need China for economic. We need security for US.
When one member of the country does not agree, then they don't push for it.
We can trust our neighbor.
So big superpowers to start listening to us. Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of Beyond the Headlines. To go to space for the top stories that made the headlines and more. I'm Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Alina Koshi.
And this week, the world turns its gaze to Kuala Lumpur as Malaysia takes center stage as the host of the 47th ASEAN Summit and East Asia Summit. Now, under the theme of inclusivity and sustainability, Malaysia steps into the leadership role at a time of global uncertainty where diplomacy, economics and power politics are once again colliding in Southeast Asia.
That's right, Amalina. Malaysia is in the spotlight again, and not just for hosting. So Reuters reports that we are close to finalizing a new trade deal with the United States that will aim to bolster a lot of things, including bilateral trade and investment, targeting key sectors, including semiconductors, artificial intelligence, digital economy, and energy transition. But making the headlines, we have US President Donald Trump, who will be here in person. So it's been 10 years since a sitting American president has joined the ASEAN leaders, the last being, of course, Barack Obama in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like a decade sort of like practice here, I suppose. I don't know. I'm not too sure.
I don't know whether he's going to make, it's going to be an every 10-year thing. But
yeah.
Welcome.
I'm not too sure. Yeah. But I'm not too sure if Trump's appearance is a long-awaited one, but of course a long-awaited one to sort of like understand further the friction that we've been having when it comes to trade deals and tariff understanding here, because the US, of course, recently imposed 19% tariffs on Malaysian exports, sparing semiconductors for now, but not without pressure. And meanwhile, we're also looking at the ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement 3.0, which is also expected to be signed for this particular summit that we are seeing this particular weekend. Malaysia finds itself in the middle of a delicate balance act here between Washington and Beijing, and between principle and pragmatism. Of course, the other new update is that Putin eventually is not going to come. He's going to look at the possibility of
he's not coming,
time.
Folks. We'll have to wait for next year for that, for his appearance. But, you're talking about balancing act. It affects all of us. I mean, higher tariffs, of course, affects us as Malaysians. I mean, our exporters earn less, which could trickle down eventually to, jobs and prices back home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But of course, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has actually called for sanity to prevail, saying that Malaysia aims to ensure that this particular summit actually will come up with tangible sort of results and not just photo ops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we are asking this question. Can ASEAN, under Malaysia's chairmanship, stay united and credible in this shifting world order? And how will Malaysia's diplomacy and economy hold up under global spotlight?
Mm-hmm. And of course, with that, I'd like to introduce our guests on set here today. We're thrilled to have with us Professor Dr. Salawati Basir from the Centre of International Law and Siyar of UiTM. Welcome, Dr. Salawati, to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you.
And next to Dr. Salawati, we have Dr. Abdolreza Alami, co-founder and director of the Asia West East Centre, Asia WE for short, and the senior lecturer of UiTM under the Faculty of Communications. Welcome, Dr. Abdolreza.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Of course, first topic of interest, right?
Yes.
ASEAN is a big sort of area. We want to dive into what interests first. I think talk about diplomacy is the best.
Diplomacy and legal standing. I mean, let's start with that.
Yeah.
So ASEAN often calls itself a collective voice, for the region. So what does that really mean in legal terms? Can it truly act as one, especially with US, China, Russia, and all pulling us in different directions?
Well, it's very interesting because not many people understand about the international law frame on ASEAN. Actually, international law frame ASEAN collective voice through the founding of ASEAN when they established ASEAN back in 1960s. This is where we emphasize on sovereignty, non-interference, and also the peaceful settlement of dispute. So with these three anchor with ASEAN, we enable ASEAN ASEAN can act as a neutral diplomatic governor and limits its ability to act decisively, and also particularly amid tension involving major superpower, especially in ASEAN, US and China. Because when you see that the respect of sovereignty and non-interference, ASEAN really success in that. For example, like look at whatever happened in Indonesia. We never teach them like, oh, Indonesia, you have a problem with your people, you have to do this and that. No. And also like Cambodia and Thailand, they're at war actually. They were at war. But none of ASEAN members try to send the military or try to take side. No. We bring them back to the diplomatic way. That's why I said just now that we have the peaceful settlement of dispute. What ASEAN, especially Malaysia at this moment doing is we send the neutral team at the border to cool them.
Like a broker of sorts of peace.
But what about Myanmar? Because there was this 5-point consensus that was given to them, introduced to them, right? You know, when you talk about non-interference, you know, they went a little bit above and beyond that where Myanmar is concerned. Maybe you could explain why there was an exception, so to speak?
This is one thing very interesting, because Myanmar, you have to understand, they are by junta. Very dangerous because junta be backed by another superpower. So we try to give the chance to Myanmar with this 5S, but none of it being fulfilled. And what of the weakness of ASEAN also in Myanmar, because we keep changing every year the representative according to the chairmanship. So I think you should not change that. It's supposed to be one person that reliable, can do the work maybe at least 4 to 5 years. So he can continue the work and can always report to ASEAN Secretariat. Rather than now, you cannot see the continuity of work. You come back to the around and around the same. So I think that is the weakness of ASEAN when it's come to the non-interference, because they are really put that things on that.
I mean, I do understand. You want the legacy to continue on, right? You don't want to have like all this big sort of announcement, but eventually it doesn't come. I mean, it doesn't bear fruit in terms of having to resolve issues and disputes. But following from that, right, from a legal standpoint, again, I do understand, because now we're also attracting other superpower leaders of other superpowers, like the US president. We know Trump is coming. To what extent does that signify regional peace or some sort of like opportunity for us to be looked at as the hero?
Maybe people don't understand how unique ASEAN. ASEAN cannot be compared with European Union or with ECOWAS or whatever, ECOSOR in Latin America, never. Because one thing that I love about ASEAN that people always forget to look is regarding the centrality in external relations. We never stop our members to have the external relation with any country that they want, right? And they're also not going to give us any order that say, okay, I have a relationship with Israel, you should have. No, we never go for that. It's up to your foreign policy of each country in ASEAN. However, we are very centralized when it comes to the superpower. We are really need to ensure that this region is peace. So we always want to handle this both superpower equally. We need them. We need China for economic. We need security for US. And I think Malaysia in a few other countries, we never say that we choose anyone. We befriend with both. So that's why ASEAN centrality is a very important, and some people start to criticize it by saying that ASEAN centrality now getting weak because of the influence of China in about 3 or 4 ASEAN countries.
And Malaysia being the chairman for this year, for the 46th and 47th,
Yep.
actually, is quite a crucial sort of role to be in, right? It does put us in a very rare spotlight right now at this particular juncture. Can I just go to Dr. Abdolreza? Your thoughts on the situation that Malaysia is currently in, having to attract many world leaders, having to also be the platform to push for opportunities, tangible opportunities to be materialized, right? But how can at least our Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, approach this without having to overlook domestic concerns as well?
As Dr. Salawati said, the central of the ASEAN is very important. The central of the ASEAN mechanism is the defense, not the power. Yeah, means the ASEAN use this mechanism. ASEAN should be worked with both sides, because the US has the power and money and also the technology, and China is one of the main the customer. It's the big customer for the Malaysia, and there is the neighbor of the ASEAN. if you see that Dr. Anwar Ibrahim, after they become the prime minister, he went to the China, one of the first country that Anwar Ibrahim visited is the China, to work with China, and also Dr. Anwar has a good relationship with the Western country and the U.S. because he has the plan to work both sides.
But the bigger context of having to ensure peace and sovereignty, especially within the region, how does efforts align within ASEAN itself in terms of having to have this, again, collective responsibility be totally upholded without having to just turn our backs on the nation or our neighboring country right now, macam Myanmar? The country has been going through years of political turmoil domestically. Don't you think we should actually be more vocal about it, not just wait for the 5-point resolutions?
Myanmar is a very difficult situation, if I can say, because all 9 ASEAN countries really want to help them. But the junta doesn't want to. The junta is always have their own mind. And I think that we not blame ASEAN for that, and ASEAN already neglect them. You know, we ban them in any of ASEAN meeting for them to take a lesson, but it's never worked. And you have to understand that why they bomb all those their own people is until yesterday is because they got supply. But back to the reality, almost all ASEAN countries having a very good depending economics with China. And in this kind of situation, we can't do the humanitarian intervention, even though many people say, why don't ASEAN set up that humanitarian intervention? ASEAN not being established on the issue of security, bear in mind. ASEAN is being established back with these 3, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, back in 1960s because of the economic. So people have to understand the root of a problem. That's why when it's come to the situation in Myanmar, it's very difficult for ASEAN to move forward.
Because a lot of people are also questioning it, the right for Malaysia or any chairman of ASEAN at that time to have that right to dissent. You get what I mean? Because things years have grown, needs have grown, understanding have grown. So they want it to be more than just lip service and actual security. It's not just dari segi economy, it's every encompassing holistic aspect of security, which is peace.
Yeah, we've got a very big issue at South China Sea. And Malaysia, Philippines, Brunei and Vietnam is a claimant together with China. We're having a more problem there. And then we have Myanmar. That's why US here. US really want to ensure that their Indo-Pacific agenda are still alive. So that's why when you're talking about the people, why Malaysia or in other country cannot solve Myanmar, not because we cannot solve Myanmar, because our establishment are not meant for any things on that kind of particular situation. So we are really have to be in our centrality and also in our non-interference. And tell me that many of the diplomats in ASEAN say, kick out Myanmar. A problem for us. It's already done. It's already here. Kick them out. Because they don't want to follow. Yeah, but how you want to kick it out? Because they're still in our agenda.
But, at the same time, we are also pushing, with this as a backdrop, we are still pushing for the ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement 3.0.
Yeah.
Irony, okay.
Right as we welcome Trump. So, the question is, can we balance both sides? Maybe Dr. Alami, maybe you have your thoughts on that.
I think this situation is in the ASEAN situation. The idea of the choice of the one side is come from the U.S. strategy. Yeah, because the U.S. wants to the ASEAN countries support to the against China hegemony. But for this reason, ASEAN should be clear about this and don't choice because both sides is important for the ASEAN. We can trust our neighbor because we don't have the good experience about the trust of the U.S. This is the some sentence from the Dr. Mahathir. But for that times, the ASEAN should be choice the work both sides.
But of course, we've got the factor of the economic undercurrents here as well. Yes, we can be very idealistic to push for, we want to be neutral, we want to work with everybody. But at some point, we have to take a stand in to which direction we want to incline towards. The economic undercurrent at the moment that Malaysia is facing, especially with the US, is the tariff, right? And then it's not just isolated to us. A lot of other nations are also trying to rationalize how do they work this. And for Malaysia, 19% tariff on exports have been, introduced in a very sort of like knee-jerk or in a way a very spontaneous sort of manner, right? How strong is Malaysia's negotiating power here to draw the US or at least Trump's retaliation towards a nation who doesn't want to listen to be better?
The Malaysian, the real negotiation power is not about the politics. Now, at that times, the US, they need the Malaysian cheap factors. For this reason, the US make this the tariff for the Malaysia. If the tariff, the removed by the policy of the US, the change, this is to make a big problem for the Malaysia.
You mean if they start to impose tariffs on semiconductors and chips and manufacturing and stuff? I see.
This is the main the factor. If the change the policy of the US, because sometimes the US president has to change the idea about the tariff with the different country.
I mean, from 25%, it went down to 19%. So
they are actually listening.
Yeah.
They are listening to us. I mean, in that way, there's some negotiation that had taken place, which was quite successful.
Because this is about the chip.
Yes, about the
if the US push, of course, because at that time US don't have the time for this reason he make this policy.
Does that tell us a little something as well, though, in terms of how internally we should also navigate our trades or at least our opportunities as well? We have to actually bulk up on our semiconductor industry because otherwise, if we don't, they're probably just going to look at us just like as another country who doesn't have like this sort of added value to them.
If the Malaysia try to improve the R&D of this area, this is the candid negotiation more with the US because the knowledge is one of the important things for it. If the company go, but the Malaysia has the knowledge. As the example, I cannot compare between this country with the Malaysia. You know the U.S. attacked the Iran and the Western country. Why? Because the nuclear plant. They destroyed the nuclear the place of the Iran, but Iran don't have any issue for this because the Iran has a knowledge of this. If the Malaysia wants to negotiate with the U.S., have to improve the knowledge and improve the advance of the R&D of this area.
Well, that's a trigger point. That's a buzzword. When you talk about nuclear energy, nuclear power, it is a buzzword. So in Malaysia, we have been talking about nuclear talks, but then our nuclear talks, especially also within the ASEAN region, is for it to be a free zone and not to be utilizing it for war. At least with the US, right? Malaysia's economic engine, which is, if you zero in on Penang, 80% of our E&E, our electronics as well as electrical goods, goes to the US, this year alone. And with reshoring pressures and higher tariffs, Malaysia can Malaysia keep its semiconductor dominance intact? Or are we at risk of losing it to nations such as Thailand or Vietnam?
As you mentioned, the 18 figure shows that Penang is directly the U.S. trade war. For this reason, if the Malaysia should be the strong to this area, as I told you before the previous question, should be improved the knowledge about this area, should be improved the R&D of this area, the technology. Yeah. This is the situation should be the Malaysia think about this.
First and foremost, where is the policy? I always ask, for example, automotive policies. I don't hear that for the past 10 years. Where is our heading to? Why we see so many EV cars from China here in Malaysia? Where is their potential? Where is the future for that? I'm not against that, but what is the stand of our government towards that? First. Second, semiconductor. Yes, Malaysia is the number one in the world producing semiconductors. China want to come. Blinken come to KL, say no. Don't open to China. They move to Vietnam. We have to see all issue in ASEAN always related back to the economy without prejudice. So that's why for me, I always ask the government, where is the mechanism? Where is our mechanism to the foreign workers? We always take foreign workers, which is not skilled workers. How many of people of them in Malaysia? 1 million, 3 million, Bangladeshis, Indonesia, you name it. Refugees issues. This is all the problem in Malaysia that not make us go up, but it's take us down. Where is the blue books or white papers that we can follow? Okay, this is the policy of Malaysia for another 10 years. Follow it. I don't see that. So this is the thing that the government have to do. Because if the government can charm the people, okay, we are serious about certain industries, yeah, then the people will bring back. Now I said to you, where is all the automotive or oil and gas people? They went out. They go for UAE, Central Asia, because first salary, second productivity,
Okay.
third the economic or the future for their jobs. Yeah.
Essentially, these three elements that were not necessarily missing. Sometimes we're there, but we never really, exercise it through the end.
It's never set in place, like you say.
But the policy were there. I mean, at least for the automotive sort of trajectory that we were aiming for. Right? Proton was supposed to be our sort of case study, right? We have also another strategic growth that we're aiming for, which is the power grid, the multi-nation power grid system here. It's meant to connect the region's energy system and show the case how transformative we are. Can Malaysia position itself as a key energy player? It's a very simple question. But are we actually reflective of that?
I think already Malaysia is the hub of the energy, okay? Because if you see, is the Iran and also the Russia and also the Middle East country, the Persian Gulf, the country,
GCC.
GCC.
Yeah.
The use this corridor to send the energy, the oil and also the product of the oil to the China.
But can they become better players?
Of course, yeah, because there are the capacity in the Malaysia that because as the corridors now is the started from the police to the China and from the names the corridors from the China to Turkey. This corridor is a very important corridor for the also as I know about the Indonesia, the link with these corridors from the Malaysia, and for this situation, make it Malaysia as one of the important country for the energy.
This is to you, Doctor. As Malaysia steers the bloc, right, under the theme now, the theme is inclusivity, sustainability, prosperity. What concrete policies like, green financing, digital trade, and, MSME empowerment can turn those ideals into real measurable growth?
Malaysia theme for ASEAN is very good. Inclusivity and sustainability. But how far that we include all the people in ASEAN in one roof? We still have a problem at South China Sea, which is not being settled, and now they have diversion between Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines. Okay, first. Second, what about the human trafficking, human smuggling goods? It's a major issues in Malaysia. Which the inclusivity? Where is the declaration? We only have the Declaration of Human Rights. We never have the Treaty of ASEAN Human Rights. We're supposed to have the treaty, not declaration. Declaration is just declare. Treaty, everyone must sign, must do that, must implement and enforce in their domestic law. We don't have that. So smuggling, trafficking, goods, humans, everything still happen, rampant. Not to mention piracy. Yeah. So this is the question that I always see that after we bring that themes. Okay. And second, what about the least developed country in ASEAN? We have Laos at the back, Cambodia at the back. We got Singapore as a first world country, and others are developing country. Where is the inclusivity for all those women and children in this region? That's why We are today talking about it, but we have to realize that the reality is not like that. The reality is both of these superpower are actually using us as their battlefield.
So, okay, with that, right, because again, I did earlier mention about this public dissent or how Malaysia can actually exercise its role as having to push away from certain superpowers so that it doesn't look as though that we are being influenced in that sense. But this is unfortunately the international protocol everywhere in the world. It's not just isolated to ASEAN. It's a courtesy sort of extension. Perhaps we can always intellectuals try to rationalize the presence of these people at the back of ASEAN, like quite literally. But we cannot also ignore that their presence means something.
I always say that I urge ASEAN to have the treaty on human rights rather than the declaration, which is 2015, 10 years ago. And I also would like to see the rights for the women and the children in Southeast Asia are being more protected. Because when you can see that children being killed by their own government in Myanmar, and when there's escalation between Thailand and Cambodia, many women and children also being affected, and you know that is area of the human trafficking. So this is very dangerous for them. So I always look at that. If we were talking about just the economy, we achieve it. We're talking about superpower, we have the ASEAN centrality to control it. But when we're talking about the human rights, we always have to bring back the definition to the each of a country, which for me, ASEAN need more than that.
And that's not just focusing on just trans-border or transnational crimes. Only when it breaches our border, then we take action, right? It's actually to look at our neighbor and see like, hey, they're actually sinking lower. Even though it doesn't breach or cross our territory, but we should at least look into how to resolve that as well, I see.
It's also that whole non-interference thing, because as ASEAN goes, when one member of the country does not agree, then they don't push for it, right? I mean, it depends on the entire agreement from all the countries involved before something can be done and issued, right?
Yes.
I mean, in that case, like things like human trafficking and a lot of these issues are not being resolved because you may not have the consensus of all the countries involved.
That's why if you can see Singapore, as they are the richest one in ASEAN, they always give with capacity building and also training to the legal judiciaries and also enforcement unit in Cambodia, in Laos. I saw they did that in the past 10 years ago in Laos, generous of Singapore government, because they believe that this is how I can say that the help from the privileged country like Singapore to this least developed country in ASEAN. I tell this thing because I do believe that the problem with us is the economy are not same. So this is one of the ASEAN problems. Yes.
So the wavelength is not even the same.
Yes.
Okay.
The quality of life, the quality of education, and the qualification. So this is the problem also, because Malaysia look at it and no, we already done it in 1975. Indonesia, we try to do it. Philippines, we're not yet done. So Laos, what is that? So this is the problem among us.
Okay. I understand. The tariff negotiations between Malaysia and the US right now is also gaining a lot of protests from a lot of people watching because is it really going to change anything? That was the bigger question, right? But how do international trade laws actually align with certain regional agreements, right? Because we've got the coming one, the ASEAN-China FTA 3.0 that we're looking at. Is there any international trade laws that can curb or at least control the superpowers?
I know many people, critics, condemn, yes, let them do. But we have to understand that Malaysia, what else can we do? We are not superpower, we are small power. We've got 33 million people with a plus 3 million illegals or the undocumented foreigners in our country. So at least Malaysia try providing alternative markets. What we can deal with US, and also we reinforcing a multilateral rules-based system under WTO. This is people don't want to read, people don't want to agree. And also I think Malaysia try very hard to promoting regional supply chain integration.
Okay.
The diversification of trade and a regional agreement is something that need to be looked into seriously, and also we need to increase the FDI. I think US is always have certain issues in Malaysia, right? The electronics and also the semiconductors. But at the same time, we also enhance with RCEP, we also Trans-Pacific, and also with China, we have the 3.0. So I think Malaysia try very much in terms of trade, and I don't see we weak on it, but we try to bargain the best for our country. Of course, there is a reflection of it, bad or positive, but it's more on where the government can bring Malaysia ahead. That is very important.
We're bargainers.
I think this is good opportunity for Malaysia to deal with the another countries, give some of the technology for the another country, as to improve the part of the you mentioned about this. If the Malaysia is a work about digital, and the digital is the because it has a capacity, and also is as the background of Malaysia as the digital is very important for Malaysia.
So digitization of our small scale sort of industries here is a very needed push at the moment right now, right? So that we don't lose out to again markets such as like Vietnam. I think Vietnam is rising in that, right? As far as leadership is concerned, it's unfortunate that we're looking at it from dollars and cents, from how many trade agreements we're able to seal, materialize, and even like exercise, right? But moving forward, one final question to both of our guests here as well. How can like ASEAN be better at not just having to be looked at as like a summit of its own, but instead like the policies of ASEAN trickle to the individual countries or partnering nations that come?
So I do believe that now is a time for ASEAN to help the least developed country in ASEAN to at least go another level. Yeah, Vietnam no longer CLMV. Yeah, it's only this Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. So hopefully we can help them more. So then they can have, because like Cambodia, they don't have the Air Force. They don't have. Yeah, so Thailand have the Air Force. So when they have war, of course you can see Thailand will win. So that's why I always have the situation that many of these countries actually have the very bad history with the war and all that. So we need to help them. I do believe that we can do it. The capacity building need to be more enhanced in ASEAN to help the least developed, so that they can at least same par with us. You know, even it takes time, but at least there is something for them.
You know, as the Southeast Asia and also as the East Asia become the one of the important regions now, and the whole countries, the world's the focus about this, because the Western country, U.S., and wants to the gainest of the hegemony of China, and this place is the place of the gain. If any of the country of the ASEAN wants to the link with the one side, make an issue for themselves. So for this reason, the ASEAN should be the independent the region, and improve the different area to become the strong.
Another bigger question is that should we look at economic dividends as the price for our diplomatic sort of like role here?
You know that this the organization of the summit has a lot of the cost, but if the Malaysia give the good benefit of the good benefit for this negotiation, and also deal with this different country, and also not that shortly, the long time, and I think it's good for the Malaysia.
Hopes that you would like to see coming out from the summit?
I want to see that the credibility of ASEAN to say yes or no, and how they can work together with all the superpower.
Okay. What about you, Dr. Abdolreza?
Yeah, I think it's the effect of the economy of the Malaysia and the ASEAN, this is good, the opportunity, and also for the another side, if the Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim make the discussion with the Trump about some things like in the Islamic country, the issue like the Gaza, okay. I think is a good opportunity, good the point for the ASEAN summit.
So we'll be looking and watching with bated breath as traffic comes to a standstill, and ASEAN meetings come up.
Yeah, a little PSA. Traffic closure will be between 26th to 28th, but of course, the traffic police have already introduced, staggered sort of raptai, right?
Yes.
I suppose practice for these road closures. So for those of you who don't know which roads are closing, do go on to NSC Online. We have those listed out for you. Plan early.
Yes.
Don't go out on a very spontaneous sort of like decision making and then suddenly finding yourself stuck somewhere and you can't go out.
No trips to KL for the time being, but yes, we are looking forward, to seeing what transpires on this platform and to see that, Malaysia comes out, as one of the best hosts for ASEAN.
Yeah, for ASEAN. All right. If you do like this particular episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to also turn on the notification bell if you haven't already. I'd like to thank our guests both on set, Dr. Abdolreza. Thank you so much for being on Beyond the Headlines.
Okay, I'm so happy to come here. Okay, yeah.
Dr. Salawati, thank you as well. Very, 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 very punchy insights, perspectives as well, very fresh as well. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Elena.
Dr. Elena.
Thank you, Elena Koshi, for being my co-host for today. And to our audience, if you do like this episode, follow us on our social media. We're on our Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, as well as Threads. My name is Amalina Kamal, and we'll see you next week.